just to touch the fringe of his garment. And you knew you would be healed. Such faith, such belief. Can you imagine the crowds, the throngs that would follow him as he walked in the towns and the cities and the neighborhoods? Absolutely mobbed. And he would teach at times by the shore of the Sea of Galilee. And there were so many people. You have to appreciate this. Can you imagine what it would be like today with social media? Just the tens and tens of thousands. I mean, even back then, they count sometimes, you'll see stories of how there were 5,000, I think in Mark, where he feeds them. Even though he only has a few loaves and a couple of pieces of fish, he turns that into food for all. There's 5,000 people following him around. Can you just imagine wherever he went, whenever he would come to a town, and people would hear that Yahusha, Hamashiach, the Messiah, who they knew was the Messiah, and who they had such faith and believed, the people flocked him. The Pharisees, the lying scribes, the hypocritical holy men, who were more concerned with their own rules, regulations, traditions, and their own power and hold over man, such that they rejected what they knew was the truth and the Messiah. They absolutely were astonished by his profound teachings. And they saw his miracles, as the people did. But they rejected him and they murdered him to hold on to power. But the people loved him. The people flocked to him. And he would teach by the shore of the Sea of Galilee. There were so many people, imagine this, that they would keep a boat. The disciples would keep a boat right there next to him, just so that he could maintain some semblance of a small area where he'd be able to teach and minister effectively. And such that if the throngs, which would often press against him, why? Again, because they wanted to touch him, to be healed. They wanted to touch him, to be filled with his grace and his love and his joy. Such that if it got too much, and can you imagine the crowds just descending upon you and pressing against you to the point where it could get dangerous, he would step into the boat. And there were times where there's so many people, he taught from the boat, just so that he could have some distance and so that he could teach properly. But think of the belief, think of the faith that you have, such that you are part of that crowd and doing everything you can to get to him, just so that perhaps you can get a chance to touch the fringe. That's the term they use, the fringe. I think the term for it in Hebrew is tzitzit. I believe that's the term, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But just to touch the fringe of his garment. There's the story of the woman who, for many years, bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, she can't stop the bleeding, and she spent everything she had on doctors to no avail. And she manages to catch up to Yahusha, and from behind just touches his garment, and instantly she feels different. She feels that she's been healed. She knows that she's been healed, and Yahusha, feeling that the power came out of him and into her, turns around and says, "Who touched my garments? Who was it that touched me?" And the woman, frightened, says that it was her, and explains what had happened to her and explains why she wanted to touch him. And he says, for your belief, for your faith, you've been healed. And here's the good news. Although Yahusha is not walking amongst us right now such that we can meet with him face to face, see him face to face, talk to him face to face, and touch him, the good news is that he lives within us now. And in receiving the word, receiving his truth, in asking for salvation, asking for him to heal us, because he lives within us, he heals us. It's the same as touching his garment or him laying hands on you. He lives within you, Yahuwah, Yahusha, the Most High, who creates, the Most High who breathes life, the Most High who breathes into existence. And the Son, Yahusha, the Most High who delivers, the Most High who saves, the meaning of the name, the Most High who redeems, lives in here. This is the temple. Our body is the temple that houses the breath that we receive when we ask for Yahusha to save us. When we ask for his redemption, and he fills us, Yahuwah, Yahusha fills us with the Ruach, the set-apart spirit, the breath of Yahuwah, and that beautiful, beaming breath of life, that light. Such is the power of Yahuwah that his light, the light of this earth, smashes into the darkness that you formerly wandered around in your whole life, and it is gone, disintegrated, obliterated, because the light of Yahuwah, Yahusha, the light of this world, is such that the darkness cannot comprehend it, darkness cannot overcome it, darkness cannot fathom it, so it exists no more. And now you live in the light, and the Ruach that lives within you, the healing light that heals you from the inside and bursts forth from you such that others can see your encouragement, your inspiration, your vibrancy, your robustness, and the fact that you're truly alive. And you live as an example for them. But understand what this means, how powerful this is. That if Yahusha was walking amongst us, your belief is so strong that you know that if you just have the opportunity to touch even his garment, let alone he lays hands on you. The stories are, there's so many stories in the books, the book of Luke, the book of Mark, of how he heals and heals and heals, casts out the evil spirits from the people, heals the paralyzed, helps the blind see, brings hearing back to the deaf, over and over and over again, heals the sick, raises the dead. So many stories, and they even say this happens so many times. Just one day, he would spend a whole day in a town, in a city, laying hands on people, healing, over and over. And they even say, I forgot which one of the disciples say, I don't know if it was Luke, don't know if it was Matthew, don't know if it was Mark, don't recall, but they say you could fill all the books you could imagine just with the stories of all the people he healed. But again, you know that if you even just touch the fringe of his garment, you're healed. And now he lives within us. His sacrifice, giving his own life, Yahuwah manifested in the flesh, walking amongst us, living amongst us, teaching us, healing us, loving us for all our sin, for all our misery, for all our hate, for all our idolatry, for all the times we rejected Yahuwah, for all the times we turned our backs on his commandments over and over, and yet still manifest in the flesh, walks among us to see us in all of that, all of our hypocrisy, all of our lies, all of our evil, all of our sin, all our decadence, all our depravity, and still finds us not only worthy, but his love for us is so immeasurable, so incomprehensible, so complete, so total, so everlasting, that he pays the ultimate price so that we may be saved once and forever and know the Father, know Yahuwah once and forever, and enter through the kingdom, the narrow gates to the kingdom to come, and have everlasting life with the Father, with Yahusha, with the set-apart Spirit, with the Ruach. Should we only confess that Yahusha HaMashiach came in the flesh, should we only believe in him, should we only have faith in him. He taught us the most important commandment of all. Love Yahuwah with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love our fellow men as we love ourselves, so that we would live a prosperous, healthy, loving, joyous life, and so that we would have everlasting life in the kingdom of Yahuwah, the kingdom to come, where there is no more murder, death, war or misery, evil or sin, sadness or hatred. There's no more decadence and depravity, defilement, debasement. No more haters, detractors, psychic vampires, negative influencers. No more Lucifer, demons, Satan, Hashatan. All of them crushed beneath his feet, where Yahusha lives amongst us once again, where there's only everlasting joy, everlasting love, everlasting healing, and everlasting life, and where we can love Yahuwah Yahusha with all our hearts, souls, minds, and strength in a manner that pleases the most, because we're perfect once again, as we were when we were in Eden before We allowed ourselves to be misled and deceived by the serpent, such that we now wallow around this earth, wander around this earth like the walking dead, perishing with hardened hearts and hardened souls, being misled, corrupted, deceived by the dragon, such that we make our way around this earth as Cain did and as his descendants, conquering, conquesting, crushing, destroying, burning down, pillaging, clawing, scratching, cannibalizing. For what? Cheap thrills, cheap highs, cheap titillation, just so that we could live a life of decadence, depravity, defilement, debasement, and just constantly seeking power and the esteem and glory of man and the riches and wealth and the houses, the cars, the money, the worthless accoutrements of this life, which can never be taken with you and which perish the moment you touch them, the moment you grasp them like sand running through your fingers. All the material things of this earth, all the things you seek, all the power, all the glory, all the esteem, all the money, none of it is real. It's all an illusion, it's all a mirage, and yet we chase it, we claw it, we scratch it. We scratch. We hunger. We thirst. We long for these cheap highs, these cheap thrills, this cheap titillation, the things that leave us lonely, depressed, bereft, and wanting more. It's never enough. It's never enough. Questions constantly asked, searching, seeking, looking for meaning, looking for purpose, looking for hope, never finding any of it in the things of the flesh, in the materialism of this planet, in the lies, the propaganda, the mirage spun by the evil whisperers of this world that we are so easily influenced and persuaded by. And yet the truth, the way, the truth, and the life, as handed over to us by Yahushua HaMashiach, by the Messiah, holds all the answers, holds all the truth, holds all of the joy, all of the healing, all the love that we've searched for, that we thought we could find in these cheap accomplishments, in the esteem and glory of other men, in the conquering and the dominating and the climbing to the tops of the mountain peaks of achievements, to receive titles, to receive championships, to receive checks, to receive glory, to receive kudos, to receive some standing amongst our fellow man. All worthless, because the minute you get to the peak of one achievement, should you ever get there, you find you're simply at the bottom of another mountain, doomed to roll that boulder back up the hill and have it roll back down on you. Because you believe, you think that you could find your answers here in the inventions of man, in the ideas of man, in the prophecies of man, in the processes and systems of man that leave you always longing for more, hungering for more, searching for more. It's just never enough, because every question that gets answered, a new question pops up after it. Every door that you open, there's another locked door behind it. But in Hamashiach, Yahusha, you find everything. You find everything. And you receive his salvation, you receive his love, you receive his healing, because he lives here now in that sacrifice that he made, so that we may live while the demons of this world torture you, bind you to them, and would have nothing more than to see you destroyed by taking their drugs, their cheap, illicit, chemical concoctions that leave you high for minutes or hours, and then seeking, hungering, thirsting like a ravenous cannibal for more. Would have you drink their cheap spirits, would have you wallow in their mindless entertainment and pornography, to merely see you corrupted, because misery loves company, while Yahusha sacrifices himself and dies the most excruciating death, so that we may live while the demons of this world would have you die slowly, perish slowly, wander around like a zombie until you are no more, until you are nothing, until you are torn to pieces for their pleasure. Yet Yahusha dies so we may live. Imagine that. Imagine the dichotomy of that alone. That equation alone tells you everything you need to know. And the minute you touch him in here, just as if he was here walking amongst us, and you would have touched just the fringe of his garment, and you would be healed. Now that he has given himself over, sacrificed himself so that we may live, he lives here now. His law, his living law is written on our heart. We've received the word, and that word lives, no longer like the word, the commandments, the rules, regulations, traditions of man that is written on stone. Stone fades, stone perishes. The laws of stone simply reveal evil and sin. They reveal punishment. They reveal evil and sin. They reveal infractions. And they dole out punishment and penance. They do not reveal salvation. So the only reason you follow the laws of the stone, the law that perishes, the law that fades, just like your heart, which is hard, which perishes with fades, you follow that law merely to avoid punishment. You follow it begrudgingly. You don't follow it lovingly. You don't follow it out of joy. But when you receive the living law, the word, the way, the truth, and the life, the new covenant, that's written on your heart. You have everlasting life. That word, the Ruach, inhabits you. The breath of Yahuwah that gives you life, that gives you a new life, such that you are reconstructed, revised, reconstrued, renewed, refreshed, reborn once again in his image, such that you are encouraged, you are inspired, you feel his healing, joyous, loving energy bursting forth from you. The Ruach that lives within you animates you in a way that you've never been alive, because you've never been alive until this moment. And that living law, that word, that ultimate commandment that's now written on your heart, love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And if you love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, you'll follow his commandments, and you'll follow it naturally, not begrudgingly, because you love him. And you'll love your fellow man as you love yourself. That simple commandment you now follow out of joy, out of honor. It's a privilege because you've been saved. So you do this because it's your greatest obligation, it's your greatest responsibility, but it's also your greatest happiness, your greatest joy, your greatest peace, your greatest solace. You do it lovingly now, where before it was begrudgingly, now it's lovingly. Now it's out of joy and out of hope and out of you do it gratefully with thankfulness for your salvation, for he has healed you in all ways. And so again, now, receiving the word, it's like touching him and being healed. And I can attest to this healing. I can attest to this healing. Over eight years now being healed in so many ways. I am a walking, living example of his healing power. 8 years ago, diagnosed with cancer. Monstrous vampiric parasitic tumor. Sitting, perched like a gargoyle, like a demon on my left kidney, sucking the life out of me. It was the size of a grapefruit. It was 14 centimeters, almost 14 centimeters. They removed that, they tore out the left kidney, and they also found another small tumor on my right kidney. But we left that alone. I decided to leave that alone because I only have one kidney. And a few years later, another tumor popped up on that right kidney, a small one. Both of those tumors in the 2 centimeter range stopped in their tracks by the glory and the grace and the healing power of Yahuwah Yahusha. And since then, over and over and over again, I've been healed. Being monitored over the past over 8 years now to watch those tumors and to watch and to see and to monitor me. Scans and scans and scans and blood work and blood work and blood work. And the things that have come have been wiped away by Yahuwah Yahusha. Over and over and over again. They found a spot, what they thought was a lesion on my pancreas. So they're monitoring that. They follow up that. Boom! What do they find? It's just a collection of fluid. Ultimately, that's what they find. It's a collection of fluid from the original kidney surgery where they removed that left kidney. That was the power of Yahuwah, Yahusha. They find a lesion on my thyroid, over a centimeter. And that one really concerned me because my mother died of thyroid cancer. And on follow-ups, boom, it's gone. That was Yahuwah Yahusha. They find spots on my hip bone. On follow-up scans, gone. That was Yahuwah Yahusha. The cancer, that evil, demonic, Luciferian, vampiric, parasitic cancer shows up later on in my liver. We remove a chunk of my liver. Then they find the diaphragm by the liver. They find a lymph node. They find a lymph node that now they have to watch because that's over a centimeter. And that's right by where the liver had that tumor in it. That's gone, wiped away. Yahuwah Yahusha. Every single time, Yahuwah Yahusha. And I'm praying and I'm visualizing his healing light healing me. What else do they find? They find more. Over the years, they find more things. They find a spot on my spine. Turns out to be a hemangioma. That's Yahuwah Yahusha. They find a lesion on one of my ribs on the left side, on my left rib cage. 7 millimeters. They find that, they're monitoring that. Stop, dead in its tracks. For about a year now, stop, dead in its tracks. They find somewhere between an 8, on some measurements I believe it's an 8, and others it's a 10 millimeter lesion on my right lower lung. They follow that, they follow up on that. 6 months later, it's gone. They can't see it on the scan. That's Yahuwah Yahusha. Liver issues, wiped away over and over and over and over and over again. I touch Yahuwah Yahusha here in my heart and my soul. Every single day I'm on my knees praying, visualizing, seeing Yahuwah Yahusha's brilliant healing light, infusing every organ in my body, every bone in my body, my nerve system, my respiratory system, my circulatory system, my cardiovascular system, my lymph system, every cell in my body, every molecule that makes me up, every fiber of my being, my spine, my hip, my coccyx bone area, my head, my brain, my liver, my kidney, my left rib cage, my right lower lung, my lungs, my heart, every muscle fiber, every tissue, every sinew, every tendon, every cartilage in my body. I see his healing light infusing all of these areas. Every single part of me, every single day on my knees, visualizing, seeing his healing, brilliant, beautiful light, filling me with that grace and that glory and that power. And I see it absolutely engulfing every part of my body and every cell in my body and every fiber of my being. Every single day I go through this and I see it happening. And I'm praying on it and I'm seeing it. And I'm thanking him for healing every single fiber of my being, every molecule that makes me up. Every single day I see myself engulfed with his healing light. And I'm healed over and over and over and over again. But there's something else to this that I want to mention. There's something else to this that is so important. Because again, it's like touching his garment. When you have this faith in Yahuwah Yahusha, when you're filled with the Ruach, the set-apart spirit, the breath of Yahuwah, and you feel that light just absolutely bursting inside you, just shooting out from you in an infinite number of ways, so that other people can see you have a responsibility to live as an example for your people. And to also not take for granted his healing power. Again, imagine if he's here in front of you. You have such belief, such faith that you know that if you just get the chance to touch, even though, let alone him laying his hands on you, just even touching the tzitzit, the fringe of his garment, that you would be healed. And now knowing that he lives within us, that the moment you receive him, the moment you confess that he came in the flesh, The moment that you ask for his salvation, that you're flooded with his healing, flooded with his joy, flooded with his love, and he lives within you. He's right here. And so in going inside and connecting with him, in asking for his salvation, in receiving the Ruach, you're touching him. He's laying hands on you. He's living within you. And his light is bursting forth, healing you from the inside out. And his light is shining down on you, healing from the outside in. And the same light emblazons the path, the narrow path that leads to the narrow gates, that leads to the kingdom to come, such that you are guided. When you surrender completely to him and ask for him to show you how to live your life in a manner that pleases him most, part of that is taking responsibility for your health. Because to know all of this and then to live in a manner incongruent with what you know, such that you're asking for his healing, and he has healed you, but you're asking for him to heal you. You're seeing his healing light. You're envisioning him healing every part of your body, saving you from illness, saving you from sickness, saving you from disease, filling you with robustness and vibrancy and good health. We have a responsibility to honor this creation, this temple that he gave us that houses the Ruach. Again, we are the temple. He lives here within us. And so we have a responsibility to not be presumptive that should we continue to live a life of decadence and depravity, knowing that we've been saved, such is the same for our health. Should we have the faith such that we ask for him to heal us, and he heals us as he will. If you have faith in him and you envision him healing you, you will be healed. I am living proof. I am over 8.5 years, all of these things wiped away, healed, stronger than ever, more motivated than ever, more encouraged than ever, healthier than ever, more robust than ever, more dynamic, more alive than ever, more healed than ever. Living proof, walking proof of this. But we have a responsibility. You ask for his healing, but you have to do your part. You cannot take it for granted. You cannot take his healing for granted. It is a gift, such that if you are truly thankful, if you are truly grateful, then you can do everything in your power to honor the temple, to pay reverence to his creation, and to not defile it, to not eat poisonous, toxic, junk sludge that they call food. You're going to treat your body right. You're going to eat healthy foods. You're going to treat yourself in a healthful manner. You're going to take care of yourself. Don't come to him, ask for his healing, and then walk away from it and not take responsibility for it and not do your part and not honor the gift that he's given you, the gift of this body, the gift of his healing, the gift of his joy and his health and his vibrancy and his robustness, and the fact that he lives in you and that he's filled you with the Ruach, the breath of Yahuwah. And then you take it for granted. Do not do that. It is like you ask for his salvation. You ask for him to forgive you for all the sin in your life that you've committed, and then you go right back on sinning. And don't get me wrong. You may sin because we're imperfect. But often now, you're not going to do it willingly. You're not going to do it in the face of him, rejecting him. Maybe you'll be misled. Maybe you'll be deceived. Maybe you'll do it unknowingly. Maybe you'll sin unconsciously. I pray every day to be forgiven for my sins, both the sin might knowingly and unknowingly. Because a lot of the time we sin unknowingly. We can't help ourselves. We're misled, we're deceived, we make mistakes. But to go into something knowing, hey, Yahuwah is calling you, he's telling you, because now he lives within you in such a way that the breath guides you. You cannot be incongruent any longer. You cannot be misaligned any longer. The Ruach won't allow it. And if you do so, you're rejecting the grace and the love and the glory and the salvation of Yahuwah Yahusha. Because if the Ruach is telling you, do not do this, it is an out and out sin. Stop. And you know it. And you know it. and you even in the face of knowing that, you say, I'm going to do it anyway. You have to start asking yourself, do you truly believe? Do you truly have faith? Do you truly want to be saved? Do you truly want Yahuwah Yahusha's glory? Are you really following the commandment? The one commandment from which all good things spring, from which all prosperity, from which all health, from which all guidance springs, to love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, love your fellow man as you love yourself. If you're knowingly in the face of the Ruach telling you, compelling you to not take this path of evil and sin, and yet knowing that, you willingly say, you reject the Ruach, you reject Yahuwah Yahusha, and you follow that evil, sinful path anyway, then you're clearly breaking the commandment. You're clearly not loving Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And what becomes of you? It's the same with the healing. It's the same with the robustness and the dynamism of good health that He has gifted us with, especially if after being sick, after being ill, after having a disease, and after coming to Him and asking Him to hit, and on your knees envisioning every day His healing energy, His healing love, His living water flooding every cell in your body, every fiber of your being, every molecule that makes you up, every tissue, every organ, every bone in your body, every system, every nerve system, your lymph system, your circulatory system, respiratory system, your cardiovascular system, all the systems of your body, seeing His healing light, His healing energy, His living water absolutely overwhelm you, flood you like a tsunami with His healing energy and His healing love, such that you are healed. And then, the very next moment of that same day, you turn around and start doing drugs, drinking alcohol, eating junk food, not taking care of yourself. So you have to play your part. You have to take responsibility. And how could you not? In truly being grateful and truly being thankful for His healing love, His healing energy, and His living water, such that you drink of His living water, such that you never thirst. You eat of the bread of life, such that you never hunger. The Word nourishes you in all ways. How could you do anything but be grateful and be thankful? It's literally carved into your DNA, carved into your genetic code. You are grateful in a way I can't even describe. Having been healed over this 8+ year journey, after all the things that they have found that has tried to wreck me and destroy me, all the different tumors and cancers and lesions and spots wiped away by Yahuwah Yahusha. I feel that responsibility. I do not take His love and His salvation and His healing for granted. That's why I eat healthy, to honor what He has done for me, to honor Him, to honor His creation, to pay reverence. How could I not? After His healing grace, I have a responsibility to live up to what He expects of me to at least do, which is to honor His creation, to honor His temple, and to pay respect and reverence and be thankful and grateful for His healing, such that I take care of myself, so that I can truly love Him with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. Because if I love Him with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, I follow His commandments, and I respect and pay reverence to His temple, to His creation, this body which houses the Ruach, which guides me, which fills me with life, which fills me with His healing energy. And so that I can live as an example for my fellow man to love. What am I doing in doing this? I'm loving myself as I love my fellow man. And to love my fellow man, I must love myself, which means I must nurture myself. I must take care of myself. I cannot go to Yahuwah Yahusha and ask for His healing and then not follow through and do my part by eating right and exercising and training and living a good, clean life, not doing drugs, not doing alcohol, not being decadent or depraved, not poisoning myself, but doing everything I can to keep myself strong and healthy and robust and dynamic, and by eating the right foods. the single ingredient clean foods that Yahuwah has given us. Fruits, vegetables, meat, just the very simple things that come from Him. Not that we've created, not that we've devised, not that we've constructed, not the poisonous junk food that our food scientists have created to fool our taste buds, to fool our sense of smell, to fool our eyes, and only to eat this garbage that looks delicious and good to us that actually causes disease and sickness and breaks us down. It is sinful, it is decadent, it is depraved to fill ourselves with such toxic sludge, which is just a cheap thrill, a cheap high, a cheap titillation of our taste buds. And that we gorge ourselves on such hedonism, such gluttony. How absolutely craven can we be that should we ask for His healing after we've been sick and ill and diseased, and then to go back to doing such a thing? I can't do that. We can't do that. We can't. We have to. We can't be presumptive. And then what? Should we get sick and ill again? Because we've completely, once again, turned our backs on Him by turning our backs on our health, turning our backs on the temple, turning our backs on His creation, especially after coming to Him and asking for His healing, His healing energy, His healing love, His healing grace, His living water, such that we are truly robust, dynamic, and alive and healed. And then to go back to what? Defiling ourselves with the worst foods, with toxic chemicals, with drugs, with alcohol. And then what? We think we have Him as a safety net, such that, oh, it's okay, I'll go back to destroying myself, to being decadent and depraved, and to not taking care of, being lazy and not exercising and not eating the right foods. But that's okay, because what? Because the moment you're sick again, you're going to come to Him again and ask for Him to heal you again after you've turned your back on everything He's done for you. Imagine it. I cannot do that. And so this is why I do everything I can to take care of myself. This is why I do everything I can to eat the right foods, to train and to exercise, to get into flow state. Not only just, and by the way, that I see that just as a side effect of getting into flow state, so I can have true, honest, and deep conversations with Yahuwah Yahusha, because working out and training gets me into a flow state where I can connect in a way I can never connect. Just absolutely putting me to a state where I truly understand, where I can ponder and ruminate on His words, His phrases, His parables, His teachings, and gain deeper and deeper and deeper meaning. Because when I'm deep in a workout, deep into that intensity, it brings me into the zone, brings me into flow state. I can truly tap into His signal and understand the revelations and the epiphanies and truly appreciate the word and the meat, because there's so many layers to it that I receive when I'm in that state. And you might be able to receive that word and get into that state in a quiet place where you meditate and contemplate and ruminate on His teachings and His parables and His words and His phrases. This is the way I do it, and a beautiful side effect of that is I also keep the body strong. I also keep the temple strong. I also keep the hardware, the framework that He gave us that houses the Ruach that we've been given, the breath of Yahuwah, that houses it properly with reverence and strength and courage and honor, so that I can wear the armor of Yahuwah, because I have faith, all belief in Yahuwah Yahusha, such I can wear the armor, and I become impervious, impregnable, impenetrable to the spears, slings, arrows, and daggers of the evil ones and the evil whisperers of the world that can't touch me. I cannot be persuaded or influenced to not be strong, to not eat healthy, to not train, because of the gift that He has given me, and so I honor that gift. I pay reverence to that gift. I respect that gift by doing my part and taking care of myself and living as an example for my fellow man, so that those who are lost and who are sick and unhealthy and diseased, so they know my story, so you know that you too can be healed by Yahuwah Yahusha, simply by touching Him in here, connecting with Him, tapping into His signal and receiving the word in His salvation, and coming to Him and envisioning His healing light, His healing love, His healing energy, and His living water flooding every cell in your body, every fiber of your being, every molecule that makes you up, and you will be healed as I am healed. So let us walk healed, robust, and dynamic on this path, guided by the Ruach that lives within us, ceaseless and relentless, as we march unstoppable, unconquerable, undefeatable, indestructible, unstoppable, unassailable, as we move with speed and grace, like a locomotive, like a freight train, like a juggernaut, to kingdom come.